It's Pet Preparedness Month, so in today's video we have a very special guest. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome to Cascadia Dispatch. I'm Casey, and with me today is a very special guest, Dr. Millie von Kittepants, Esquire. Millie is our family's cat, and she is definitely part of our preparedness plan. So as we talk about pet preparedness, she wanted to join us. I'm going to let her go because she has many things on her schedule today. But I appreciate that she was able to join us for a few minutes as we begin to talk about what you would do in an emergency to make sure that your pets are safe and taken care of. So as we think about what you would need to prepare in an emergency for your pets, there are a couple of areas that we would want to think about. One is shelter, containment, identification. One is going to be food and water, and then one's going to be sanitation. Those are kind of the big areas, and we're going to go through some things to talk about kind of what you would want in each of those areas for your pet. But also remember that this is going to be a little specific to your pet. For us, we have a cat, so our plan is kind of around a cat. But you know, whatever you've got is what you're going to have to prepare for. So leave a note in the comments down below and let us know kind of what you're preparing for, what animals you have, what you're thinking about, and then we'll have some great ideas from other people. We can comment below as well. So let's dive in and we'll go through the individual sections. One of the, if not the biggest concern that we have specifically for our cat, for Millie, and you may have for your animal as well, is in a disaster, animals may run off, they may be scared, they're going to be in different surroundings, so they're going to be nervous, and they may not behave the way that they normally would, and they may be very skittish, they may dart off places, and once you have found your animal or you have secured your animal, you don't want to then have to go chase them into rubble or anything like that. That's not a great plan. So one of the ways to keep our animals safe and to make sure that then we don't have to worry about that is we have a couple of different shelter, we're going to call them containment options. Containment seems a little harsh, so we're going to go with shelters. But the idea is to keep Millie safe and then also to make sure that we know where she is. So if we need to leave, if we need to go somewhere, we know where she is. So the first option that we have is kind of the soft animal carrier. This is what she's used to. This is when we take her on trips. She doesn't get out much, but once a year we usually take her on a trip. Or if we're going to the vet, this is the carrier that she's used to. It's great because it's a little more comfortable, but it's a little small for her. It's not designed for a long trip. It's designed for, you know, being in the car for maybe a half an hour or so. I'm sure she could survive in it for a longer period of time if it needed to, but it's not an ideal for long term for her. However, one of the things that is really kind of important in here is there's a little liner in the bottom, and you'll see all of her shedded hair in there. So that's got her scent on it. She knows that that's safe. So wherever we have her, we would take that pad, if we could, and use that in whichever carrier or situation we would have. And I would encourage you to try to find some blanket or bedding or something that your animal's scent is on so that they know that wherever you are is going to be the safe home base for them at that time. Because the locations will change, but that scent will be reassuring to them. The other kind of reason we probably wouldn't use this as a long-term scenario is because it's softer, it's soft on top, it's soft on the sides. So if we needed to put this in the car and pack it with other stuff, usually we just have this in the back seat and she sits in between the kids' car seats and she can see the kids and she's fine, there's nothing on top of it and everything's great. In an emergency where space is going to be at a premium, we may want to put some things on top of this or around this, and having the soft sides is going to make it uncomfortable. It's not going to be sturdy for her, it's not going to be sturdy for this. So that makes it not ideal for a longer term venture, but in the short term, it's okay. So in a longer term situation, what we would be looking at is something more like this. So this is a collapsible, sturdy plastic carrier. It's got lots of space. It's significantly longer. I'm hoping you can see this on the camera. It's significantly longer. It's wider than the softer case. It's taller, so there's more room. So it gives us the option of being able to put more stuff in there with her. We could, set this wherever we're sheltering and put her food and water actually inside of the container, and then she could actually kind of be in there. That could be your little house for a while. In kind of our long term, okay, we need to be somewhere for 2 or 3 months, or we're bugging out out of our house or something like that, we would probably use one of the tents that we have and use that as kind of a containment shelter for her long term, so she can actually kind of get out and move around a little bit. We don't want her just free ranging because there's a lot of reasons. There could be other animals that are displaced that don't want to deal with that. She's an indoor cat, so being outdoors is not necessarily something that she's used to doing. So we want to try to keep her as contained and comfortable as possible, but also making sure that if we needed to, we can move pretty quickly. As for free ranging, for our cat, we have this wonderful, stylish harness that we can use for her. So if we did, for example, need to get her out of the carrier, if we needed to keep track of her for some reason because we were going somewhere and we didn't want her to run away, we could put this on her. If you have a dog that has a leash for walks, you've kind of already got that set up. For us, our cat doesn't necessarily go for walks. We tried that when she was little. She wasn't a huge fan. So we have this just in case. A really important thing to also keep in mind and think about how you want to do this is identification. So your pet may get lost. There are lots of stories during major disasters, hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, where animals, maybe you're not at home and something happens and your house gets damaged, and so your animal runs away because it's scared or something. Being able to identify your animal is going to be really key, because someone else may find that animal and then report it, and there's usually a period of time where people are trying to reunite pets and owners, or pets and people. So being able to identify and be mindful of that is incredibly important. There are a few ways to do that. One is you definitely want to take a picture of yourself and your animal. Have some pictures of your animal, but also have some pictures of yourself with your animal. So if someone wants to verify, if they find your animal and they want to verify that it's you, you have a way to show, hey, this is me and my dog, or this is me and my bird, or this is me and my cat. Microchipping for bigger animals, cats, dogs. Most vets will do it. I'm not going to get into the ethics of chipping an animal or anything like that. We have a chip in Millie because she can't talk, and so if she gets lost and goes, someone finds her at the Humane Society or something, or a vet, that's the best way that she can tell them who she belongs to and who will come to get her. Especially if you have a collar, that collar can fall off. The microchip is not going to fall off, it's just going to be there. The key thing to remember with a microchip is the microchip is only as good as the data that is in the database attached to the microchip. So if you have chipped your animal, you want to make sure that your contact information and whatever database is associated with that is up to date. Have you changed your phone number since you did it? Have you changed your address? Have you moved? Make sure that all of that information is up to date and current. So if there is a situation where someone finds your animal and has to use the information in the microchip, it actually will get to you. Make sure that you have multiple contact opportunities in the information associated with the microchip. Don't just have one phone number, because if it's your home phone number and you can't be at your home or there's no phone service, there's no one to call. So make sure you have a home phone, a cell phone, maybe an email address, a mailing address. If there's the ability to put other contacts on that in that database, do that. So if they can't get a hold of you, they can get a hold of a family member or a friend who maybe is out of state and is your out of state contact and can coordinate reuniting you with your animal. Also, collars, name tags, those sorts of things are really important. yes, they can fall off, but having one is better than not for a few reasons. One reason is if you have a collar of any kind on your animal, people that see that animal will recognize that that is someone's pet. It's not a feral animal, because feral animals can't go to PetSmart or Petco and get a collar or a leash. So if your animal has a collar on, it's going to let somebody know that that is a lost animal and that they should try to at least, take care of it or find some information about it. You can put information and contact information on that tag, and it's a great backup. I think the microchip for us is the primary because our cat doesn't go outside, and for her to have a big name tag collar on would be a little cumbersome for her. We've looked into some smaller collars. There are some things that you can get there. If anyone has a great small collar name tag company, please let us know. Leave that in the comments. That would be really great for us to know. But having that is going to be better than not having it. And you know what? It may fall off, but then if they have the microchip, you're still okay. So make sure that you have as many ways of identifying your animal as possible, because you may need to use that. And if not, you don't want to have that tragedy on top of everything else that's going on. Obviously, in an emergency, you are planning to have food and water for your family. You're planning on having food and water for your neighbors. You need to make sure that you have food and water for your animals. Some people will feed their animals human food, and that's great. Other animals need special diets. We have friends who have animals that have allergies. We have friends that their animals have medical conditions and they need special medication. So just as you would plan for all those eventualities with your child or a family member, you want to have the same plans for your animals. So in our case, what we have is food-wise, we keep an extra bag of dry food that Millie likes to eat on hand. We do this, so we usually have a backup 2 or 3 bags, and then we rotate them through so they don't get stale and gross to the point where she wouldn't eat them. And I know in an emergency, she'd probably eat anything, but we like to try to make it nice for her, just like we would try to make it nice for any member of our family. So we try to rotate that through, but we try to have at least 1 or 2 bags of extra food that could last for anywhere from 2 weeks to 3 months, depending on how many bags we have. We also have some pouches of food. This is a wet food, but because it's contained in a pouch, these are really easy if we needed to leave for any reason, to grab 6 or 8 or 10 of these, throw them in a backpack, split them up in a couple of backpacks, throw it in our carrier, and make sure that we have food. It packs down really small, obviously. We've got these, you can get them at the grocery store. We got them on Amazon by the case or box, and then they just kind of cycle through. So we also give these to her as treats, just regularly, as a way of cycling through so that these don't get bad as well. But we don't use these as much as the dry food. Water is going to be really important to your animals, just like it is to your family or any of the other humans that you have around you. And you don't want to, if you've calculated out water needs for your family or the people that you are supporting in a preparedness event or a disaster event, you don't want to then have to use that water necessarily for your animals, and you're not going to want your animals to be thirsty. So you definitely want to make sure that you have extra water. We have some water bottles, obviously, as we've talked about in other videos. So some of the water bottles that we have, we've kind of planned for as Millie water. You might want to do the same. Depending on the size of your animal, your water needs and your food needs are going to be different. Our 12-pound cat is only going to need so much food. Your 100-pound dog is probably going to need a different setup, and so you're going to need to prepare and plan for that. What we also do is we have these silicone little cups, and these are really, really nice. There's a bunch of different brands that have these. We'll put some links to where you can get these in the description, but these are great because you can have these, set them on the ground, pour some water in it, put some food in it. We actually have 2 of them. one for food, one for water. And it's really easy then to have your pet have a setup of food and water that's clean. You can wash them out. They're silicone, so you can wash them really easily. And then they collapse back down to this little kind of hockey puck shape. They also like to fight you, apparently, as you're collapsing them. But yeah, so they collapse down like this. There's a little lid, put it on. And now this can really easily go in a carrier, or it could go in your backpack, and you're ready to go, just like you would with all of your kind of food items and pots and pans or whatever it is that you're carrying with you to make food for the humans. These would fit along really nicely as well. So that's kind of the food and water setup that we would use for our animal, and then you would adapt it size-wise, volume-wise, and number-wise. If you have 3 dogs, you're going to need more stuff. If you have 2 lizards, you're going to need more stuff. So that's kind of how we would run with the food and water setup. Sanitation in an emergency is going to be a really, really big thing. No one wants to get sick by having bacteria and just grossness in their food, water, on them, touching them, any of that sort of stuff. We don't need diseases spread. We don't need people getting sick. You're going to have enough problems in a disaster without that sort of a situation happening too. So one of the things that we have is we keep a roll of poop bags in all of our bags. We keep them with Millie's stuff. In an emergency, we may not be in a situation where we have a litter box or cat litter or something like that. So she may kind of take care of that and, you know, bury it wherever she's going to go. We probably try and contain that as far as only, you know, so far away, and being mindful of water sources and proximity to people. Nobody wants their animal, you know, doing their business right next to the creek that then everyone is going to be getting their water from downstream. So ideally we would try and kind of find a place away. We would use the poop bags. We'd probably put it in some sort of a burn pile or something that we would be using for other kind of sanitation needs as humans, and get rid of it that way. For other animals, dogs and things like that, you're going to use the same idea. You don't want, you know, dogs doing their business in the middle of, you may have a very small space outside, or you may actually be sheltered indoors. And, you know, if a dog or any animal takes care of things in the middle of, you know, a room of people, you're going to need to be able to take care of that. So we have these. We also have kind of the antibacterial wipes that you would have, like a Clorox wipe or a Lysol wipe or something. We keep those in our bags as well. So we would use those to kind of clean up the area if it was, for example, inside, and you're talking about floor or something like that. If you're outside, you're not really going to probably deal with that, but you are going to want to be able to wash your hands with some sort of an antibacterial or just some sort of a soap to make sure that you get all of the yuck off of your hands when you're done, so you don't get it and pass it to anybody else. Okay guys, thanks again for joining us on Cascadia Dispatch today. Talking about pet preparedness. It is Pet Preparedness Month, or it's almost the end of Pet Preparedness Month. But wanted to get this out before the end of Pet Preparedness Month. Say that 13 times fast. I don't know how that works. But anyway, thanks again for watching. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share. Let us know what type of furry, scaly, feathered creatures you're preparing for. What pet tricks you have, if you have any, that we didn't go over. It's always great to share it with everybody who's watching, so that they can learn more and we can learn more, and then we can put it in more videos and we can talk about it and other people can talk about it. It's good for everybody. So anyway, thanks again for joining us. Like I said, please like and subscribe and share and hit the bells and all of those things, and we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.